Hello guys, welcome back for the security structure. So we were discussing in our last session, we have seen octave formal risk analysis structure as a octave. So that is operationally critical threat, asset and vulnerability evaluation. So these are the different phases under that, different steps that is supposed to be carried out to get a proper analysis, risk analysis, and its detailed structure. This is one of the approach. Second approach, we are going with the FAIR. So that is factor analysis of the information risk, factor analysis of information risk. It is a technical standard for risk definition from the open group. So it is also like Octave, but it allows for non-malicious actors as a potential cause for harm. But it goes to greater lengths to emphasize the point. For many operational groups, it is a welcome acknowledgement for existing contingency planning. So now the major difference between Octave and this FAIR, factor analysis of information risk, is, so this is one of the standard from the open group, but the major fact is, so within that particular operational technology, a clear-cut differentiation is required so that over here, over in the FAIR, so we can clearly specify the non-involved actors, those who are coming under risk factor. For example, if you're considering as an example, say some of the vendors, those who supply raw materials, readily available raw materials. Say for example, say if you consider the car manufacturing industry, say you may buy bolt and nuts. So this bolt and nuts you haven't prepared in your own organization. So you may borrow from third party, from third vendors. So these bolt and nuts, whatever supplied from the third party, so they are not exactly involved under your manufacturing part, right? So now I hope you understood the situation. So you need that bolt and nuts, but you won't manufacture that, but you will buy that bolt and nut which is already manufactured by some other person. So saying that, it will, this particular FAIR setup, factor analysis of information risk, will analyze that part also to emphasize whatever you buy for your industry under the existing planning, risk planning setup. So it will understand the risk factor under that particular category also, whichever is supplied by the third party vendor. So now here with respect to the Octave is compared with, the more significancy is improved with respect to naming. Naming in the sense via applying tax, applying risk taxonomy, risk factor is concerned with. To elaborate more on that risk analysis, a clear-cut differentiation between each phase-wise part, individual component part. So that's why FAIR places emphasis on both unambiguous definitions and the idea that risk and associated attributes are measurable. So each and every minute part or component in that organization must be clearly addressed for risk analysis, so that we can easily trace out the fault if something is happened. So measurably, quantifiable metrics. So this one is important. Quantifiable metrics are a key area of emphasis, which should lend itself well to an operational world with the richness of operational data. So while measuring, while tracing out different risk factor based on different components as OT is concerned, supposed to make a clear-cut differentiation between its operations, services, and its component-wise risk factors. So once we have that one, it is very easily trace out. So this particular part, that is quantifiable metrics, measurable, clear-cut measurable part, can be received from that analysis. So this is done via FAIR, factor analysis of information risk. So this is over this, the major part with respect to FAIR. So it is a probability with respect to frequency, and probable magnitude of loss. So these two things are concerned. It has a clear-cut definition in such a way that, so what will be the probability with respect to frequency of occurrence of the risk, and so if the something happens, what will be the result, that is magnitude of a loss. So over here, a clear-cut differentiation or hierarchical structure can be received because of sub-elements. So we can divide it individual component into many individual other parts. So that sub-element, individual sub-element wise, we supposed to analyze as a separate risk factor by considering frequency and the magnitude of loss. So now, when we say the frequency, that is threat event frequency, we'll call it using the term threat event frequency. So which is a specified time window becomes a probability. For example, in general, if you consider if it is considered with the vehicle, whether you use your vehicle or no. So maximum, for example, consider as a diesel high-end vehicle, say Innova or some other kind of vehicle, you may supposed to do periodical service for every 1 year or within 10,000 kilometers. So these two criteria, you're supposed to do oil change, engine oil should be changed, you're supposed to change oil filters, diesel filters of your vehicle. So these are the some of the things under that. So now consider this particular situation fair. Okay, so now with this periodical oil service, engine service. So now if you do not do this one, so as a fair is goes with, we supposed to concentrate more on each individual sub parts as well. So now what we discussed so far, that is as a sub part, as we consider oil engine service for a vehicle, you're supposed to do oil change, say 3.5 liter or 4.5 liter, whatever it may be. Then you're supposed to change oil filter, supposed to change diesel filter. Then you're supposed to clean, or if there is necessary, you're supposed to change air filter also. These are the things should be changed. So now, if you do not change any one of this particular component, then we can say there may be a probability of blockage in diesel supply, blockage in air ventilation, blockage coming to the oil circulation as well. So these are the risk factors we can consider when we are identified with the different individual subcomponents. So that is threat event frequency. Understood? Okay. So the other side of the risk taxonomy is the probable loss magnitude, PLM. So by considering the previous example, if we couldn't do that periodical service, then what will be the result? So that is this probable loss magnitude. So engine may be in trouble, you won't get good performance from your vehicle, your engine won't last for a long, right? Quality service by your machine, by the engine, you can't reflect, you can't identify that. So there is loss according to the money spent on that. So, right. So these are the PLM, probable loss magnitude. So which begins to quantify the impacts, with the emphasis again being on measurable metrics, individual measurable metrics. So now, with respect to this is concerned with the, for the OT operation technology operator, a significant emphasis on operational efficiency and analysis makes understanding and quantifying costs much easier. So in this case, it defines a clear-cut information security policy, information security area for each individual subcomponents, so that you can easily trace out the significance of an understandability of the individual risk factors, so that it is easier to quantify the costs. So what will be the cost behind those things? So in general, so this phase, it defines 6 forms of loss generally. So 4 of them are externally focused and 2 of them are internally focused. So when we say operational teams, that is productivity or replacement, so these are comes under that. And response loss in the sense if you do not address a particular risk. So these are the basics behind this, the different 6 forms of loss. 4 of them, that is external loss, 2 of them are internal loss. Internal is coming to the productivity and replacement. And even you can also include responsiveness loss also. So now to have a clear-cut differentiation with respect to FAIR and Octave, the difference between individual component and as a whole machine is concerned. So it is better to have individual component wise risk statistics and profiles so that we can easily analyze the risk, or we can easily prevent the damage that is to be damage before occurring itself. So that is the idea behind this one. Okay, moving further. So the phased application of security in an operational environment. The phased application. This phased application is nothing but advantageous factors to be implemented for operational environment. So these advantages or the security factors that is to be implemented as phased, in the sense we are going to divide the number of applications provided by the industry OT. So we are going to divide that each individual phases, and then we are applying security for each. That's why when we divide the different phases like enterprise, operational, control, and safety with respect to lower level, physical level, right? On each layer level, they're supposed to apply the security. So it is a security practitioner's goal to safely secure the environment for which he or she is responsible. In general, for an operation technologist, the process is different because the priorities and assets to be protected are highly differentiated from the better known IT environment. So we are clear cut differentiating IT and OT perspective. So IT is concerned with ERP, CRM, document management, and other. Coming to operation technology management, we are managing with the individual hardware part, individual operation part of individual services that we are extracting from the machinery. And after that, we have seen 2 other layers as well, safety and other controlling mechanisms. So we'll see that one in depth over here. So here you can see secured network infrastructure and assets with the previous setup. So enterprise zone, as we already discussed, it is the combination of enterprise network and business planning and logistics network. So over here, with respect to level 5 and level 4, as we are integrated these two under enterprise zone. So here enterprise network will have zone remote contractor. Using zone remote contractor is supposed to interact with the DMZ, demilitarized zone. We have a special services over there, zone terminal. So consider a situation. So from enterprise zone, a network supposed to access some data from the lower level. So there is no direct connection from this enterprise network to lower level, say process. So now what happens is we will have a separate application. So through that application, we are going to interact with a machine which is available in DMZ, demilitarized zone. So the application is monitored via zone remote contractor. So from the zone remote contractor, we're supposed to access the machine which is available in DMZ, demilitarized zone, that is zone terminal services. So there is a request, HTTP request is sent from contractor to the terminal services, getting permission to access some of the data. So now what this service will do, services from demilitarized zone, it will access the area control, whether it is permitted to send that particular data verified. Okay, so that is what happens here. So without the collection of the data and without transforming that particular data into different representations, the enterprise network won't have the exact raw data. So for that reason also, we need to have this zone terminal services. Okay, we're going with a different perspective now. So now from the 0 level, we have processes. level 1 basic control, level 2 area control. So now consider this particular setup now, zone A and zone B. Both zone A and zone B will have all these three layers, levels. So now zone A wanted to communicate with zone B, then using this area control they can communicate. So now consider these processes are nothing but endpoints, are nothing but sensors and actuators. So these sensors and actuators have the control ability via using actuators. So this area control is nothing but based on the circuit board, whatever we use as a smart computer or tiny computer, either Raspberry Pi, Arduino Kit or Integer IO, anyone. Okay. So from process supposed to get the data over here, and from here using some of the protocols or some of the technologies, the data is transmitted to the demilitarized zone. From there, enterprise network will collect those data. So now what will happen in this secured network infrastructure is, so whatever the infrastructure that we set up over here in process, that is in level 0, so that is secured. So there is no direct access from the front part, from the enterprise to level 0, because there won't be a direct access. So direct access is permissible only from level 1 to level 0. That is a restriction. It's already made. So level 2, from level 2 you can access only till level 1. So there is no direct access. So then on top of this particular area control is supposed to have another operations, that is site operations and control application. So these operation control applications will interact with the zone terminal services, whether to supply the data for further processing or to remote storage or for centralized or distributed storage, or can be supplied to supplied as input for another application in enterprise level. So those things are rectified and identified over here, then only the data can be sent. So this is clearly a secure zone via demilitarized zone. Nothing but, so here you can see a lock kind of thing is nothing but securing the data without authenticated, without authorized person. So the data is not at all accessible. So using this particular technology, secure network infrastructure, we can save our operational components from industries, from different risks. So to set up this one, we need to analyze and secure the basic network design in general, as we say, as we can implement the network in the form of hierarchical setup or hierarchical energy distribution mechanism we can adopt. So based on the usage. So only thing is, for every zones or every levels, we are supposed to clearly set up the crossing boundary. So where exactly the data communication is supposed to take place, the boundary should be clearly bifurcated. So over here, the normal network discovery processes is really problematic when it's concerned with the older networking equipment. So if you are using the individual components are very good, but still, if you are making use of older components, that won't cope up with the newer representations, then it is a little bit difficult to identify the network discovery. For example, if your network, if it is concerned with network discovery, is concerned with, we'll discuss with an example. For example, we can have an example of the internet service providers from the mobile companies. For example, you have a mobile handset, which is capable of having 4G. Okay, but you enabled with the 4G internet service also from the internet service provider by taking a service plan, and then you are moving to one of the locations. In that particular location, the service available only 2G, but still you owe to have a 4G because you already subscribed for 4G and you have a 4G handset. But in that particular area, if there is only 2G available, then what is the use of having latest technology, right? So now in that particular area, wherever you are visiting, so where you have the component which is supplies only 2G, because it won't cope up with your 4G mobile phone. Consider that as an example. Over here, if you consider, if those old or older devices, individual components are lagging in this advancement, so then there may be lack of network discovery processes. Okay, so now in this particular network, even you can adopt a network tracing process also. So in this case, you can also adopt network tracing processes also. Okay, any other clarification on this? Any other examples you wanted to discuss in this? Please get back to me. Okay. So over here, one more thing I wanted to highlight over here. Over here, with respect to level 3, site operations and control. So here you can have another dedicated application to which will monitor all these three, level 2, level 1, and level 0. So that whatever the data wanted to transmit, either for higher level or to send back to the lower level, so that can be handled via that particular dedicated API, application program interface. So from the demilitarized zone, the request can be handled by that API. Then only the service may be given from this lower level. Okay, so this is the kind of setup that we can have in a recent industry or organizations. So that is secure network infrastructure and assets, so that we can secure individual components, individual assets, infrastructure as well together under this particular environment. So that is secure network infrastructure, providing security for each and every module, each and every component which is used in the industry. Okay. So how we can apply, how we can deploy dedicated security appliances. So these are the different factors that is to be considered. So when deploying, when enabling the security infrastructure, security appliance for individual layers, so then the factors to be considered are to expand the security footprint with the focused security functionality. So each and in-depth security footprint. So before getting a security level security application, so before that is supposed to analyze the security footprint in such a way that in which and all layer we need to have that kind of setup based on the data, based on the security functionality. For example, if you consider just user credential, username and password as an example, say you wanted to have your data using that username and password kind of setup. So then what are the drawbacks, what are the advantages you may have? So if you are making use of same username for continuously, then there may be chances of accessing your data by guessing, right? By deploying any other malware, automated key generators. So this is one of the things. So now this is one of the challenge supposed to address, because when we say security functionality, each and every component is supposed to provide a security. So now by considering that, what type of technology that we use to address that, that is a concern. First point. Second point says provide visibility, safety and security for traffic within the network. This is another part. As we know, the different communication methodologies, say we may use point to point, we may make use of token ring, right? If it is a token ring, a particular token has to be supplied over that ring pattern. Based on the address, it will capture, it will send the data, right? So now by understanding that particular scenario, we're supposed to provide visibility, safety and security for traffic within the network. So within the private area network of a smart object, when we say a smart object, one single object may be enabled with more than 10. Okay, consider as an example our own mobile phone, whether it is Android or Apple, any company mobile phone, any mobile phone. So each mobile phone will have more than 10 sensors in it. So how to provide visibility, safety and security for transmission of the data in your mobile phone? For example, there is a camera module. You're supposed to capture a data. capture an object through your camera. So the captured image should be sent to the your storage, say SD card, or you're supposed to send it to your mail. So now during this particular process, sending from your mobile phone to mail, there should be clear cut visibility, safety and securities related with that particular. So how to ensure, if you consider same as an example, so you may enable your fingerprint technology in your mobile phone, you may enable your iris scanner in your mobile phone, or even you have a pattern also in your mobile phone. So those are all comes under this individual security for individual components. Then visibility provides an understanding of application and communication behavior. As we know, it is an understanding application and communication behavior. So based on that particular the data, so you can understand the application. So why we need, say for example, if it is a web form, by looking after the web form itself, we can understand why that web form is self-explanatory web forms, right? And its communication behavior. When we say communication behavior, what are the data it will have? What are the data it wanted to share? Level of visibility is typically achieved with the deep packet inspection technologies such as intrusion detection prevention systems, IDS and IPS. So now, this is one of the technology that we have already. It is followed by more industries right now. So each of the data packets should be visible, can be monitored. So now, in this is concerned with, for example, if you consider as an example, if you are discussing, for example, say during work hours or during college hours. So there is a rule in such a way that you can't visit a particular, say Facebook cannot be accessed during college hours from college IP. So now the college hours may be 9 to 5. So during this particular duration, so we may monitor as a system administrator, I may monitor all of your data from my location. Saying that because the college IP is monitored by me, if you're considering as an example, so that whatever communication takes place or whatever the site you wanted to access, I may block it. So that is what this particular point we can relate with. So I can have intrusion detection system so that I can detect whichever the site you are visiting and I prevent you're doing whatever you do. So I can prevent that particular site from access. So that is intrusion detection system and intrusion prevention system. That is one of the things. Second thing is, for example, again, you visit some of the websites, you download some of the tiny softwares like an add-ons. So along with the add-on, you may, without knowingly, so you may download some of the malwares also. So by highlighting the malwares or viruses, I can have this kind of, to have this kind of setup to identify the malwares, to identify the viruses from your site, opening in your mail or before getting downloaded from the mail. So I can run this particular program, intrusion detection prevention systems. This is one of the deployment application for a security purpose. An IDS or IPS, intrusion detection and prevention, can detect what kind of assets are present on the network. This is another kind. So using the same application, I can have the kind of assets. So when I say assets over here, IoT is concerned with, it is nothing but actuator sensors and smart objects. So what are the sensor data, or from which sensor you are passing the data. So those sensors have to be protected, right? So that's the reason all those assets should be registered under IPS. For example, if you're having asset ID or sensor ID, sequence numbers or something like that, then we can have a clear-cut ID under this. Then passive OS identification programs can capture patterns that expose the base operating systems and other applications communicating on the network. So we may have a passive OS. So using that passive OS identification program can capture patterns that expose the base operating systems and other applications communicating on the network. For example, if to understand better to this particular scenario, say I have a server with the say Microsoft Server Edition softwares, and then I may have around 40 systems are connected under that particular server. So whatever the 40 machines can send and receive data, all those are monitored by my server. On the other hand, irrespective of the operating system that you use in that 40 systems, I will have all those, I will have an eye on all whatever you do by tracking your packets, by tracking whatever you do, by capturing the patterns. Pattern in the sense, say for example, usually students may check their emails, students may check their uh, other IDs, other accounts, all those. So there is a pattern. So without that, if students try to have a look into some other thing, then I'll clearly expose the base operating system and other applications that we are trying for. Then application specific protocols are also detectable by IDS IPS systems. So over here, there may be application specific protocols. For example, if you're considering as an example FTP and SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol. So using SMTP, there is a chances of sending a malwares by some of the intruders. Some intruders are trying to send some of the spam emails. If you click on that spam, you are getting getting into downloading of some of the viruses. So using this mail scan like IDs or IPS systems, that is application specific, only mail oriented. So then I can easily trace out those kind of things by running a scan on your mails, content of a mail. Then placement priorities for dedicated security devices vary according to the security practitioner's perception of risk. So placement priorities for dedicated security devices. So each individual devices can be accommodated with priority and its security levels. So now when you're concerned with the priority, in general, if it is IoT, supposed to be the topmost priority for its devices, individual components like sensors, actuators, and smart objects. Then the based on the different uh, application level, application transport level, security can be provided. So now coming to the priority part, each individual component of our smart object should have a dedicated security device so that those can be saved from the third party, from accessing by the third party. So these are the different techniques or concerns that is to be identified or followed when we having dedicated security appliances during implementation or during deployment. Moving further, higher order policy convergence and network management, network monitoring. So over here, in this particular scenario, which is nothing but an adoption and integration of security across operational boundaries. Convergence, which is nothing but uh, adoption and integration. So both adopting and integration of various security levels across operational boundaries. So when we say operational boundary, it is nothing but if you consider previous diagram over here. So here you can see the boundary. So enterprise zone will have a boundary over here before demilitarized zone. So it can't access easily over here. On the other side, operations and control, it will have a boundary over here. So this will have the data until here and transmit data until this particular layer. So next you have a area control. Again, it will have a limitation. So this is the boundary for that. So by concerning this particular aspect in our mind, so it is the job to have adoption and integration of security across boundaries. That is coordinating security on both IT and OT sides of the organization. So coordination for the security implementations. So in such a way that it will do its serve, it will do its priority based on IT and OT together. That is what adoption and integration is meant for. So adoption in the sense whatever the IT related security issues are to be addressed, same thing can be, same tool can be integrated for OT also, operational technology devices, individual components as well. So using one single tool, it can serve as a security tool for both sides as well. So there should be a clear-cut coordination in between security implementations. And by convergence of the IT and OT spaces, or at least there is an active coordination across formally distinct IT and OT boundaries. So this is second part. So if there is, if you're finding difficulty in merging with the same application tool, then we may have a different one, but there should be a clear-cut coordination for IT as well as for OT. Saying, I'll go back to the diagram over here. The first point says we can have a security tool which may have a link proper security provisions for all from level 5 to level 0 also. Second level says sometimes it may be difficult to have same security tool in all these. So instead of that, you can have two different tools, one for IT sector, another one for OT sector. So if we have two different security application tool over here, one for here, another one over here, there should be a clear-cut communication between these two. There should not be any ambiguities. There should be a coordination between enterprise level and operation level, IT and OT level. Okay, so there are advanced enterprise-wide practices related to access control, threat detection, and many other security mechanisms that could benefit OT security. So now we supposed to look after the high-end or advanced enterprise-wide strengths and practices. So these will have proper access control strategy, proper threat detection strategies, and other security mechanisms, so that at the end it will benefit to the OT security. Saying that we can have a dedicated application only for this one. So if you just cross-check with my slide as well. So this particular scenario, enterprise zone, here we have enterprise network and business planning. So we can have a dedicated tool only for this one with the proper access control strategy based on the hierarchical employer hierarchical structure. But on the other hand, so this particular scenario may serve the purpose of OT also by having one dedicated application. So that is, say for example, advanced technologies. So in-depth endpoint security also can be enabled via using these advanced technologies. So using that thing, so we can have hierarchical level access to individual data, so that you can access to zone terminal services also, so that it can access only this one also. So based on the hierarchy. For example, if you have consider, say you have a user credential, two types. One is guest, one is normal user, another one is administrator level. So this is the three normal privileges we have. If you consider with the normal PC or normal system access. So if it is an administrator level, he can do anything on your machine, on the machine. So he'll have every access, RWX, read, write, execute. So if it is a normal user, so you can only read and write. If it is a guest user, you can only read. So by considering this as an example, access control is concerned with. So you can have a access control strategy from the advanced enterprise-wide practice. And then using that threat detection, if there is a new user ID is detected, which is not authorized, then can easily detect via using that advanced tool. And other security mechanisms can be benefited by OT security also. We may adopt this NSM, network security monitoring, as a process of finding intruders in a network. So we can have this kind of setup also in SM. In our network monitoring advantage is concerned with, we may have network security monitoring. Say for example, something like a firewall. Using that firewall, you can easily identify or detect, on the other hand, intruders in the network. So say there may be hundreds of systems, there may be 100 systems are there. So only within that 100 systems in a private area network. So only those 100 systems should act or enact in that particular network only. So if there is any new member as introduced, say 101th machine, so then will be treated as an intruder because it is not authorized by the administrator, so that you can alert NSM, network security management, or network monitoring using that particular tool. You can easily highlight that particular intruder. And so it is achieved by collecting and analyzing indicators and warnings to prioritize and investigate incidents with the assumption that there is, in fact, an undesired presence. So it is achieved by collecting and analyzing indicators. So now collecting and analyzing indicators are nothing but by monitoring individual persons' criteria, credentials, history from a web browser, what are the, by analyzing cookies, caches, can easily trace out, generate the warnings to prioritize and investigate incidents with the assumption that there is in fact an undesired presence. Okay, so that is about the higher order policy convergence. Any clarification, any further doubts? If you have, please get back to me. So in this, if you're considering one more thing I forgot to highlight, NSM is concerned with network security monitoring is concerned with, it is majorly used to discover the evidence, mainly to discover the evidence. If there is something happened with the cyber, I mean, so for example, cyber, we can have a broad area under this network security monitoring, like cyber security is concerned with. Cyber theft can be easily identified, and you are using this particular technique, collecting various indicators and different warnings. We may have a different tools for this also to detect and alert the administrator, to detect the attackers. So we can have dedicated NSM tool as well, so that we can have clear-cut security for entire our IT and OT. So that is about the fourth module. If you have any other queries, please get back to me. So we'll start with the new fresh module, the next session. Thank you.